Hey, what's going on everyone? Welcome back. Today we're plugging away on Evette still. Pretty much done with the pedal assembly and I've started running the brake lines. So this is the setup I was running before. I was using all flex lines, front to back, and I never really liked it that much. It was just kind of to get the car driving. And this is what I'm going with now. I've installed hard lines all throughout the car. I'm gonna use some extended stainless steel lines to connect to the calipers and run it all the way back as well. Just waiting on a couple more pieces to finish it up. But what I've been working on this morning was getting the sway bar mounted. Never had that installed before. I've got some custom lengths coming so I can get it attached to the strut tower there. Sorry. And what I'm going to be working on now is these control arms that I made for my setup. The problem I have is my adjuster here gets contacted by the wheel way too soon. So what I need to do is move the attachment point inwards quite a bit and shorten this rod overall. And that should solve our issues here. So I'm gonna get started by pulling the wheels off, pulling off the control arms, and creating a new tab like this that's just extends further back. Okay, so I've just taken off the support brace here and cut the wheel to as far as it will go before touching the sway bar. And I've just kind of made a determination on where the control arm really needs to sit so that it never contacts the tire or the rim. And that's looking like about 2 inches inwards from where it was originally. So I'm pulling the other side off and we'll go ahead and modify this one first and get it reinstalled and then do this one. So here's the control arm and here's a piece of steel that we will use to extend this mounting tab inwards. We'll essentially just cut it to line up with this joint here and then make it go like that. And we'll just weld it all together and re-drill the new hole. Here's our replacement piece that's gonna extend it out. And this is where our hole is gonna go. It's actually 4 inches inward. The piece is also gonna act as a nice brace since we are moving our connection point so far inwards. This will add a lot of rigidity to the control arm itself. I don't think it sees a whole lot of force front to back unless you hit a curb or something like that. So I'm pretty sure that this will hold up pretty well. Got my edges beveled and all clamped up. I'm gonna go ahead and tack this piece on here and then we'll get ready to drill that hole. Pretty much done here with the addition on this first control arm. Just got to go ahead and drill our hole and paint it up and get it reinstalled and move on to the other side. This is basically going to be our adjusted angle for this rod that can adjust our caster. Hopefully that doesn't add a lot more stress to it, but like I said, you know, this just supports the wheel, and as long as the wheel doesn't hit anything to stop it from rolling smoothly, shouldn't see a whole lot of stress. Well, our positioning for this is perfect. The tire comes within 1/8 of an inch of the radius rod there, and it hits the sway bar first. However, our clearance here between the sway bar mount and the radius rod is not a lot. I did lower the car down onto the ground and it does clear with probably about 3/4 of an inch of clearance. And I don't know that that would cause the rod to hit this when it bottoms out, but I'm gonna go ahead and modify our pickup point down here and see if we can't move it outward some to clear this just a little bit better, because I don't even want to risk hitting this rod when I go over a pothole or something like that. All right, I got both sides finished up and reinstalled back on the car and I'm ready to show you guys what it looks like. Alright, so this is like max angle full lock on the driver's side. Got clearance between the tire and the radius rod and the sway bar and the frame rail, so we're all good there. And I also made some adjustments to my frame mount point for the radius rod so that it won't interfere with our sway bar bracket. So that's not an issue anymore either. And the passenger side is looking just about the same. So that's it for this project. Move on to the next one, and hopefully we'll get this car on the ground and driving again soon. So this is the passenger side, and I still need to dial in my toe settings because for some reason this wheel turns a bit more than the other side does. And I'm pretty sure that just has to do with the toe. But you can see the tire gets in about 1/4 of an inch away from the radius rod, but it doesn't touch it. Free rotation, so we're good to go. Hey everyone, so for today's project, I'm finally going to jump onto the front bar that's going to connect both sides together. And right now I'm just working on a layout. I've got a pretty good idea of what I'm going to do. I got these pretty cool little tube connectors recommended to me, and they're most likely what I'm going to end up using. Probably somewhere a little further in than that, but that'll be the basic idea on both sides, and that'll make the bar removable so that I can gain full access to whatever I need to inside the engine bay there. And one of the complications, well, there's actually a few with what I'm working on right now, is I don't have a lot of room in between the wastegate dumps, the turbos on either side, and also hood clearance is going to be an issue. And then there's also the fact that this tube sits like 1/2 inch lower than the passenger side one, and that's an issue because it's going to mean when I make this crossbar, I'm going to have to make it in 2 different planes, so it'll be a little tricky and just a little more complicated than normal. So hopefully we don't mess up because this tubing is not cheap. So as with most of the projects I tackle on any of my cars, this is one of those things where if I just keep looking at it, I'm just going to keep procrastinating. So I took a straight edge and basically figured out what my angle needed to be at this intersection right here, and I also got a length for how far I need this piece to be to the start of my first bend, which I believe is going to be around 31.5 degrees. So this section here is going to be 16, and that includes a little extra so that it'll cope the pipe or the tube properly when we notch it. And once we have that piece bent up, we're just going to go ahead and kind of lay it in here and then run a tube from there to here, or a ruler, and kind of get an idea of what the length of our center section is going to be, as well as the other leg. So one of the many things that I've had to learn the hard way is always leave a little extra on your tubes, and never bend to your full degree the first time if you're unsure. So I did both this time around, and it looks like I should probably bend it a little bit more. I only went with 30 degrees, and I would like to see it come in between this gap a little bit more instead of laying over the wastegate dump there. So only way to achieve that is to bend it a little bit more. So I ended up flipping the tube over when it was only bent on one side, and I ended up really liking the way it fit over here. So I decided that I was going to just throw the other bend in the other side, trim it down some, and see how close we can get to making it work. It's looking pretty good. I did throw like a little teeny bit more than 1/2 degree downward angle in this one. I'm not sure if it's going to be enough. I really hope it is. Fingers crossed on that one. But next step is going to be to notch this side and work from there. we're gonna have to figure out exactly what angle we want the notch to go through this tube, and I think I want this tube sitting upward more so than facing downward, so that we get all the clearance we can through the middle here. So we're gonna go ahead and get that done right now. All right, it's gonna work. There are a few issues that I have had in doing this. This side okay is like pretty good actually. I'm pretty happy with the way it came out. The tube clamp is probably gonna go somewhere in this vicinity right here. The other side, I accidentally notched way too much the very first notch I did. For some reason, I was taking the angle measurements between here and here, and that's what I notched. And so that's also not the end of the world, because due to the fact that we are putting the tube clamps in here, I can just hack this end off, make a new one, and put it all back together with the tube clamp in the place it needs to be welded. So I'm not really crying about it. Next step is going to be to measure how much I need to section out of our crossbar here for these guys and cut that much out. So this is the basic idea, and you can see the way the clamp works here. It's of vital importance to make sure that these are going to be oriented the same as in both lifting off, and it's also very important to make sure that they're on the same plane front to back. Otherwise, I've been told it could be a pain in the butt to disconnect it. So I'm just gonna make sure that I've got my clearances set on this side before notching it and creating an end piece real quick, and we'll be ready to weld. Well, mission accomplished, guys. I haven't fully welded any of the joints yet. I've only got it tacked at this joint on both sides, as a matter of fact, but fitment is dang near perfect, and we got clearance over here. It's a little tight over here, but there is clearance. There's about a quarter of an inch, maybe a half. And once again, solid fitment. So tomorrow I will go ahead and get these burned in, and the way I'm going to do that, do this joint first off the car obviously, and then I'll go ahead and reassemble the entire thing, put it in, do these joints, and then do as much of these as I can on the car, and then take it off and finish weld it. Till tomorrow, guys. Prepping all my joints with green 3M Scotch-Brite pad. Got to be super clean for those TIG welds. We're about 90% welded in now. Having a little trouble reaching underneath here, obviously, and about a quarter of underneath the inside joint there on each side. But it went in really well. I'm waiting for it to cool a little bit before I disassemble it, and then I'll finish weld this guy. And I'll have to figure out a way to finish welding under there, whether that be cutting a hole in the fender well or bending some tungsten. I don't know yet, but really happy with the way this came out. So I had an idea of maybe making some gussets to run in these corners here and do a design maybe similar that is done on the front here. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. I'm gonna sleep on it tonight and wait till tomorrow till I do anything about this. So, like your input.